Whether you're a corporate executive, on a family vacation, or just passing through, St. George Inn & Suites will meet your specific needs. It's conveniently located near restaurants, shopping, and movie theaters. St. George Inn & Suites offers a variety of room types, 2 fabulous pools and jacuzzis, a fitness center, a free full hot buffet breakfast, and laundry facilities. To make your booking, call 435-673-6661 or book online at stgeorgeinnhotel.com. You need to stop in Southern Utah? Make that stop at St. George Inn & Suites.
STN Sports is the only sports betting app you need this season. STN Sports has it all. In-play betting, mobile parlay cards, the Play Plus card to fund and withdraw from anywhere in Nevada, and the latest lines on every game. STN Sports even lets you earn rewards on every bet. Safe and easy betting from your phone or tablet. Go to stationcasinosports.com or sign up at any Station Casino, Fiesta Wildfire, or the El Cortez. Details at the sportsbooks.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
It's time for the most interactive radio program in Las Vegas today. It's time for Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro. Brian will talk sports, politics, entertainment, and anything that matters to you. Feel free to call Brian at 702-221-7283.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Now, Pushing the Limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
All right, what's up, Las Vegas? Happy Thursday. Thank you for joining us. It's PTL time, broadcasting everywhere, not just on the AM dial 1400 KSHP, but also, of course, on the YouTube page, PTL Vegas, where you can see video, as well as my Twitter page, which is Pushing Limits LV, my personal Facebook page, and getting more and more people watching us on the internet, not just listening, but watching as well. So we appreciate that, and we got a jam-packed show for you. An eccentric group of guests today. I will say that. We're going to have some fun today. Obviously, I'm going to get into this. I haven't really gotten in too deep into the Kyrie Irving stuff, the anti-Semitic film that he decided to give a platform to and retweet. We'll talk a little bit about that here. Coming up the bottom of the hour, we had Congressman Stephen Horsford in studio yesterday. I really enjoyed talking to him. Very articulate, very intelligent. This is the first time I've interviewed him in person. I've interviewed him on the phone before, but really knowledgeable with all the issues facing Nevadans today. So we're going to talk to we're going to talk to a man who wrote an article about Stephen Horsford. His name is Collin Anderson. It's a right-wing publication, very far to the right. I think that's very fair to say. It's called the Washington Free Beacon, and kind of hammering Stephen Horsford on his extramarital affair. But I got to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. There are far worse things you can do. Sadly, a lot of people cheat on their spouses. I want someone who's going to be in office and do a good job. This is not Donald Trump we're talking about here, who's had extramarital affairs with every single woman they've ever had. By the way, Stephen Horsford's opponent, Sam Peters, is divorced, and he's had his own marital issues. I just want to see fairness on both sides. So we will talk to Collin Anderson about that from the Washington Free Beacon coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Do you remember this name? Bobbitt. John Wayne Bobbitt. Yes, we're approaching almost 3 decades now where this man is lying in his bed sleeping, and his, at the time, wife, Lorena Bobbitt, cut off his genitalia, threw it out the window in front of a 7-Eleven. Yes, that's right. What is John Wayne Bobbitt up to these days? I know he spent some time living here in Las Vegas, and he has some new information he wants to share with us. Documentary just came out last year. I believe it was the 25-year anniversary. And it's sad that his life is defined as the guy who got his penis chopped off. But John Wayne Bobbitt will be joining us in hour number 2. I guess I shouldn't laugh about that. It sounds extremely painful. But I think John Wayne's doing just fine now. We'll ask him. We'll talk to him coming up in hour number 2. Then we're going to get to the Raiders. The general manager of the Raiders speaking out about the frustrations of the team losing badly last week, not having a good year. We also heard, and I'm not the one who put this out there, some people put out rumors that I don't believe to be true, that Josh McDaniels was going to be fired this week. That is not true. Mark Davis himself is speaking about that. We have a quote from him as well. So I'll be talking about that a little bit later on the program as well. I wanted to start out and talk to you guys about Kyrie Irving. If you're living under a rock and you don't know what I'm talking about, Kyrie Irving has a lot of followers on social media. And Kyrie Irving put out, or I should say, tweeted out a movie, a 2018 film directed by a guy by the name of Ronald Dalton Jr., based on his 2015 book of the name. The film states that it uncovers the true identity of the children of Israel, which is a lie. It says since the European and Arab slave traders stepped foot into Africa, blacks have been told lies about their heritage. Talks about the black Hebrew Israelites. It calls Jews very derogatory names, including devils. Calls all Jews devils. The Anti-Defamation League said it's a compromised organization, the Black Hebrew Israelites. There are extremist views, anti-Semitic tropes, constant anti-Semitic tropes in this film on putting down the Jewish people. Calls Jews synagogue of Satan, among other things. So I don't want to go on and on about this movie. The bottom line is it's an anti-Semitic movie with a bunch of anti-Semitic tropes that I'm sure Nazis would enjoy. But a professional basketball player and one of the faces of the league promoting this, and by the way, we'll get into this, but Kyrie doesn't think putting it on a social media page for millions and millions of people to say is promoting a movie, when of course it is. It is a joke. And what's even worse is Kyrie Irving doubled down. Let's do the week in review here. Doubled down on some of his statements. He held a press conference. This was several days ago. This was not the press conference this morning. I will get to that. The first time Kyrie Irving talked to the media about this, you would have thought if Kyrie had any intelligence at all, he would have apologized. He would have owned it. He would have said, I'm very sorry for anybody that I hurt. Because I don't think Kyrie actually watched the movie when he tweeted this out. I'm going to be honest with you. He's a moron. Well, it was worse because he doubled down on it. He didn't apologize for anything. And then he gets into this argument with a reporter just asking him about it.
Out there, people are going to say that you are.
Yeah, put it out there just like you put things out there, right?
Yeah, but it's not.
You put things out there for a living, right?
Right, but my stuff is not.
So let's move on.
Let's move on. Anti-Semitic.
Let's move on. Don't dehumanize me up here.
I'm not doing that.
Another human being. I can post whatever I want. So say that and shut it down and move on to the next question.
But Kyrie, you have to understand that
I don't have to understand anything from you.
It's not me.
Nothing.
It's
no people that you're making up, bro. Move on.
But by posting,
move on. Next question.
Anybody
do you guys have any more questions?
And they're going to say,
you guys have any more questions? Because this is going to be a clip. This is going to be a clip that he's going to marvel at. Is this any more questions?
But you're not answering the question.
Oh, this is another answering your question. Oh my God, let's make another Instagram clip so we could be famous again. Next question.
Kyrie Irving is dismissive. He's rude. He's ignorant. I believe him to be anti-Semitic. And this type of stuff can kill people because it incites hateful rhetoric, like people on the side of the roads that say Kanye was right. I'm sure there are people that think Kyrie is right as well, and this movie is right. Kyrie Irving, with his platform, has killed people. Now, what are you talking about, Brian? Well, I will tell you. I'm not talking about saying the earth is flat. That's just ignorant and stupid. His anti-vaccine nonsense killed people because I'm sure and certain that there are people in this country, maybe people that are black, maybe people that are in poor neighborhoods. I don't know. But there are people that look up to Kyrie and believe every single word he said. And when Kyrie started the rhetoric or the anti-vaccine rhetoric, I'm sure there are people in this country during the heart of the pandemic that did not take the vaccine because of Kyrie Irving. And I am certain that some of those people probably died. Kyrie Irving does not understand the platform that he has. And he thinks everything is just like you and me. I have a right to do this. You have a right to do this. First of all, I'm not putting out stuff on social media that is hateful. I'm not putting up stuff on social media that is rhetoric that can harm people based on the color of their skin or their religion. I would never do that because I'm not a racist and I'm not ignorant. Kyrie Irving is extremely stupid. I am so tired of people saying, oh, he's got a degree. First of all, he doesn't have a degree from Duke. What? He went to Duke for 1 year. Oh, he went to Duke for 1 year to play for the Duke basketball team. Does that mean he's smart? No, Kyrie Irving is a dumbass. He's very stupid. He's very ignorant. If he had any intelligence at all, first of all, he would have known what was in this movie and he would have never put it out there. And by the way, I am not the only one that feels that way. Pretty much everybody in the NBA across the board is saying what I'm saying. Maybe not as direct, maybe not calling him dumb. Richard Jefferson, who I have a ton of respect for, everything he's done for his alma mater at Arizona, had a great NBA career. He's a great broadcaster. I had a chance to talk to him. at NBA Summer League. He's just a great guy, and he was a great player. Richard Jefferson is the color commentary does the color commentary TV work for the Brooklyn Nets. What does this say about what Kyrie Irving does when the color commentator in Richard Jefferson for the Brooklyn Nets in the middle of a broadcast says this?
It's tough because it is disappointing. Kyrie says that he has never, he's not anti-Semitic and these things, but the tweet is still up. The tweet is still up there. Kyrie also earlier in the summer, posted Alex Jones, who basically tortured a bunch of families here locally in Connecticut after the Sandy Hook tragedy. He was torturing those families, and Kyrie reposted a video from this man. It wasn't about that specific thing, but you have to understand how you use your social media has effects and can affect people. And if you're insensitive to that, then you are truly endorsing it. So to say that and not take it down, to repost Alex Jones, you are endorsing them and you are giving your platform of people and it's millions upon millions of followers an endorsement. You're saying, look at this individual or look at this movie. And so those things have effects, and people need to understand that.
Richard Jefferson is 150% right. Let me remind you, that's somebody that knows Kyrie Irving pretty well and does the color commentary for the Brooklyn Nets. Everything Richard Jefferson said there is honest and true. I don't always agree with Charles Barkley. Sometimes I disagree with him. Charles Barkley is a very opinionated person. I want you to listen to what Charles Barkley said about this situation and the comments that Kyrie Irving made.
I think the NBA dropped the ball.
In what way?
I think he should have been suspended. I think Adam should have suspended him. First of all, Adam's Jewish. You can't take my $40 million and insult my religion. If you're going to insult me, you have the right, but I have the right to say, no, you're not going to take my $40 million and insult my religion. I think the NBA, they made a mistake. We have suspended people and fined people who have made homophobic slurs, and that was the right thing to do. I think if you insult the black community, you should be suspended or fined heavily, depending. I saw they did the same thing to the kid in Minnesota this year when he made the gay slur. I think you should get suspended or fined. I think him acknowledging the Alex Jones thing should have happened with that too, because that dude's crazy. And I can't believe that we ain't talking about that. We're talking about this idiot.
So again, Charles Barkley's 100% right. And he makes some very valid points there. If you make a homophobic slur, you get suspended, right? That's happened in the past. If a white player decided to promote a movie that calls black people the N-word and makes racist tropes, a documentary that makes racist tropes about black people, what do you think would happen to that white basketball player? The league would be demanding that player get suspended. And by the way, I would agree with that. Kyrie Irving has not been suspended. Charles Barkley's right. Kyrie Irving needs to be suspended, period. We'll get to what he did a little bit later here, but Barkley's 100% right. Now, here's a guy that I have a lot of respect for. Yes, he happens to be Jewish. His name is Rich Eisen. He used to be on SportsCenter. Does a great show now, a great podcast, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. He's a very intelligent guy. I used to work with Rich Eisen at ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut. One of my first interns was at ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut, and I had plenty of opportunities to talk to Rich Eisen. He gave me a lot of advice in the industry. Clearly, it didn't help, but he gave me a lot of advice. Now, in all seriousness, he's a great guy, and I was very fortunate to have gotten a chance to get to know him when I was at ESPN when I was in college. This is Rich Eisen on his show. Keep in mind, he is Jewish, speaking about the Kyrie Irving situation.
Of ESPN going back and forth.
Good job by Nick.
You're dehumanizing me, Kyrie. I'm a Jewish man. Okay. Descendant of people who died in gas chambers and got incinerated by Nazis. You're dehumanizing me by putting on your platform a book and a movie that is filled with anti-Semitic tropes that are designed or eventually lead to the dehumanization of me and my children and my ancestors who died because they were Jewish. It's not funny. It's not hilarious. And I can't believe I got to tell someone from Duke who clearly is smart enough to know. Yeah, I mean, you're not promoting it with like a tour. It's not like a book tour or a movie tour. But when you put it in front of 4 million people who might not have already heard about it or know about it, you're promoting it. You're promoting it. You're giving it your platform. The same thing. And when you give it your platform, you may not agree with all of the other things that the person who created a book or movie or a theory that you say is true. You are now owning all of that person's opinions. And yeah, it's offensive. It's offensive. And it's also really scary because it's normalized by somebody who puts a ball through a hoop and is very famous for it and generationally rich for it. And you have a platform because of it. And it's normalized. And that on top of seeing Kanye was right about the Jews being beamed on a stadium in Jacksonville and on a building in Jacksonville. And I'm seeing it all over overpasses across the country. It's damn frightening. And I'd like you to help and do something about it.
He won't, though, Rich. He won't, because he's a dumbass. That's why. He's stupid. And when Kyrie Irving did a press conference a few days ago, the first press conference since he retweeted this movie and promoted it, because that's what he did, a reporter asked him a very valid question, and Kyrie's response was, "Don't dehumanize me." The only person that was dehumanizing people is Kyrie. And, of course, the movie. And I am also going to go after Amazon because they're the ones that are putting this movie on a platform because it's about money. I will go after anybody that wants to promote this movie or try to make money off it because it's nothing but crap and anti-Semitism and lies. And it's hurtful and it's dangerous and it could incite violence. So it's not just Kyrie Irving. There are others too. Amazon being one. I don't know why Jeff Bezos put this out there or would endorse something like this, because if you're putting it on your platform and you're selling it, that's an endorsement. But the only person in that press conference, or the only person the last week in that room that was doing the dehumanizing was Kyrie Irving. Make no mistake about it. Charles Barkley, Rich Eisen, Richard Jefferson, they're not the only people that are speaking out. How about Amari Stoudemire? Well, it's interesting. Amari Stoudemire is black, but he's also Jewish. He said, well, I think something has to happen, whether it's an intensive conversation with the commissioner about what he's doing and what his plans are as a basketball player. So I think that conversation has to happen. As far as the suspension, I'm not sure how that's going to play out. Kyrie's a guy who's trying to find himself. He's always on this quest for learning and knowledge and information. If you're not totally factually understanding of what you're learning and what you're trying to promote, then just don't promote it. He needs to apologize. Amari Stoudemire is 100% right. So what's happened since then? Well, let me read you a statement starting with Kyrie Irving. It's not an apology. To this day, he still has not apologized for what he's done. I don't know if it's his ego or he actually believes in this anti-Semitism stuff. I'm not sure if I believe Kyrie Irving. I don't believe in hate. I don't believe in the falsehoods, some of the falsehoods in this movie. I don't think I believe Kyrie Irving, because if that was the case, wouldn't he just apologize? I'm sorry. He still hasn't done that. So to me, I don't believe anything he says now. He says, I oppose all forms of hatred and oppression and stand strong with the communities that are marginalized and impacted every day. Are you standing strong with the Jewish community when you put this movie out there on your social media? Everything he's saying now contradicts his behavior and his actions. He said, I'm aware of the negative impact of my post. Then why don't you apologize if you're aware? He's a liar and he's a dummy. He goes on to say, I don't believe everything said in the documentary was true. Well, obviously, they call Jews some of the worst things in the world, devils. You're the one who promoted it. He goes on to say, I am a human being learning from all walks of life. Well, I think you still need to learn, buddy. You got a lot of learning to do in life. Just because you can put a basket. By the way, this stuff about him being a basketball player, let me even just start here. He was a cancer in Cleveland. He couldn't get along with his teammates in Cleveland. He said, I'm being misunderstood. Then he goes to Boston. He was a cancer in the locker room. He didn't get along with his teammates. He didn't get along with the coaching staff. Fans hated him. but he said he was misunderstood. Now he's in Brooklyn, where certainly the Jewish community, and there's a large contingent in Brooklyn that happen to be Jewish, hate him. Maybe hate's a strong word, dislike him. Certainly ownership not happy with him. Didn't get along with Steve Nash. Steve Nash is out the door. I would argue the problems the Nets have had more responsibility on Kyrie Irving than Steve Nash. Remember, Kyrie Irving didn't even play for half the season. This is a Kyrie Irving problem. It's not a Jewish problem. It's not a basketball problem. This is a Kyrie Irving problem. He is a stubborn pain in the ass. He's a difficult person to work with. That's clear. And I believe him to be an anti-Semite. Yes, I do. A hateful person. But more importantly, extremely ignorant. But isn't that what anti-Semitism is? Isn't that what racism is? In the end, it's ignorance. If you judge people based on their religion or based on their skin color or where they're from, you're an extremely hateful and stupid person. That's what Kyrie Irving is. To this day, he doesn't apologize. The only reason why he put this statement out and he donated $500,000 is because ownership had a conversation with him and probably forced him to. Trust me, this is not something he wanted to do. It's not something he wants to talk about. It's not something he wants to own. It's certainly not something he's going to ever apologize about. That's all you need to know about Kyrie Irving. We all make mistakes. I could even give him the benefit of the doubt, and I could say, you know what, he probably didn't even watch this movie. He's just an idiot, and he probably tweeted it out, and he was embarrassed to say so. Maybe, maybe not. But this is an issue. And I'm very disappointed in the commissioner of the NBA, and I'll explain why. I've always liked Adam Silver, excuse me. Always thought he was a decent guy. Stands up to hate. Adam Silver is a Jewish man. Adam Silver has decided to not suspend Kyrie Irving. Folks, I don't understand. It's a huge mistake, and it sets a horrible precedence. So the commissioner did make a statement on this whole situation. He said Kyrie Irving made a reckless decision to post a link to a film containing deeply offensive anti-Semitic material. He said, while we appreciate the fact that he agreed to work with the Brooklyn Nets and the Anti-Defamation League to combat anti-Semitism and other forms of discrimination, I'm deeply disappointed that he has not offered an apology and more specifically denounced the violent, harmful content contained in the film he chose to publicize. So that's all nice. I agree with Adam Silver. He's correct with what he said. But why is it that you suspend a player, or remember Miles Leonard? By the way, I have respect for Miles Leonard because he said a horrible term in describing of the Jewish people, a term that I would compare to using the N-word to describe black people. I'm not going to repeat the word. It's a terrible word. I believe he said it in a video game. And what transpired was Leonard immediately apologizing, talking to rabbis, going to synagogue, speaking with people, showing emotion, admitting fault. And I think everybody pretty much forgave him for doing that. And I applaud him for doing the right thing because I don't think he had any malicious intent. He immediately apologized and he put in the work. I respect Miles Leonard for doing that. I certainly forgave him, and I think everybody else should as well. He proved that he was sorry for what he did, and he was willing to learn. Kyrie Irving, this is the opposite. They suspended Miles Leonard. What is the difference here? Why is Adam Silver not suspending Kyrie Irving? If you make a homophobic slur, you get suspended, which, by the way, I agree with. If you say something or derogatory towards any race, whether it be black, white, purple, whatever, you get suspended. I agree with that. I agree with the suspension of Miles Leonard. He learned his lesson. Why is Kyrie Irving not suspended? That SOB should be suspended. Because clearly, he still doesn't own what he did because he hasn't apologized. Isn't that the first thing you do when you own up that you made a mistake? In Kyrie's mind, he doesn't think he did anything wrong. He's been forced to say certain things. Adam Silver has chosen not to suspend Kyrie Irving. This is a joke, and Adam Silver and the NBA should be ashamed of themselves for not holding Kyrie Irving accountable. Even if he did apologize, that wouldn't be enough. Kyrie Irving is an extremely ignorant, stupid human being. He doesn't understand the impact that he has. He certainly doesn't understand the history of the Jewish people. He doesn't understand how important it was when it came to the vaccinations and the average black person that refused to get a vaccination. He's done a lot more harm than good in his life, as far as I'm concerned. I don't care how good of a basketball player he is. He's certainly not a good teammate. I've never heard one player say, Kyrie Irving, great teammate, great in the locker room, because he's not. He's torn apart the Nets. He tore apart the Celtics. How happy were the Boston Celtics to get Isaiah Thomas? Remember that? The fans were so happy. Isaiah Thomas, now there's a good guy. Kyrie Irving is a bad person. I will never root for him, ever. I won't root for him on the basketball court. I won't root for him in life because he's a bad, ignorant person, and he's bad for society. That's why. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Before we do so, I want to tell you guys about a little event that I will be attending at Sapphire Gentlemen's Club. Now, I know what you're thinking. What do you mean? Is it a lap dance contest? No, it's not. You can do that in the other room if you like, but this is for charity. Tuesday, November 15th, it's the 15th annual Ping Pong Palooza. 4 people, including 1 female. It's a $200 donation. I say donation because it's to the Prostate Foundation, the Sapphire Prostate Foundation, saving lives. And all donations, 100% of the donations are going to the foundation. $200 per team. Please sign up, sapphireprostate.foundation.org/ping pong. I know I will be there. I'll be there ready to go with my team, and I hope you are as well. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I mentioned, we had Stephen Horsford, the congressman, in studio. There's been some controversy with the extramarital affairs that he's had. He owned it yesterday. He spoke about it. Well, I want to talk to a guy by the name of Collin Anderson. He wrote an article about this in the Washington Free Beacon. Is this a bigger story? Is this as big a story as people want to make it out to be? Well, we'll talk to Collin about that next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Hey, everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site X-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
This announcement is brought to you by the Armed Forces Chamber, Nevada's largest and oldest chamber of commerce, formed to serve armed forces members. Your opinion matters. Your vote counts. You can make history. Vote Patsy Brown as the first female to be public administrator. Patsy Brown is a contract lawyer. Patsy Brown is a federal contractor with 15 years of experience. Patsy Brown is a business owner with 25 years of experience. Patsy Brown is a philanthropist. Patsy Brown is a Rotarian. Patsy Brown is endorsed by attorneys, business owners, community leaders, legislators, pastors, seniors, and veterans. Vote Patsy Brown from October 22nd through November 4th and November 8th. Learn more at votepatsybrown.com. Again, that's votepatsybrown.com. Paid for by friends who vote Patsy Brown.
Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Just Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges and his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. So glad you could join us. For those of you that listened to the show yesterday, or maybe the podcast of it, we had Congressman Stephen Horsford in studio yesterday, and I asked him questions about the extramarital affairs and the comments that his wife has made, and he was very forthcoming, very honest, very articulate in his answers. He didn't back away from anything, and I appreciated that about him. But listen, this is a story that's made national news. It's not every day that you have a congressman that has these extramarital affairs, and then his wife, soon to be ex-wife is my understanding, making comments on social media a week before the election. So the guy we're joining us on the line right now, he is a journalist. He is a writer for the Washington Free Beacon. His name is Collin Anderson. He wrote an article about this recently, and Collin joins us right on the line. Collin, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm good. Yourself?
Doing good, Collin. I appreciate you coming on. So explain to my listeners why you think this is a very important story.
Well, look, I think the most fascinating part about it is that obviously the congressman faced, some headlines and some hoopla over this in his last election, and it did not deter him from winning. He won fairly narrowly, but he won nevertheless. And it seems to me, at least from following the story, both that cycle and now, that it's sort of become more of an issue this time around than last, in the sense that obviously last time around his former mistress was saying he should drop out. He didn't. Now, as you referred to, his wife, soon to be ex-wife, is being a lot more vocal than she has been in the past, which seems to be spurred, at least in her account, from sort of a disappointment over the fact that he's still in the race this cycle. And so I think that's the most interesting question. Is it's a story that is not necessarily new, but certainly the way that it's being discussed and the way that it's advanced in the last couple of months is. And so, that's fascinating to see, to me, in the sense that do voters see it as old news, or is it being, kind of portrayed in a new light, this second time around?
Well, Collin, I'll ask you this. What is your opinion? Do you think he shouldn't be in the race because of this?
Well, look, I think, the biggest issue for the congressman in 2020 was the fact that, as was covered at the time, he was campaigning as a family man. I think this re-election bid that he's gone on now, obviously he's backed away from that. When you look at his campaign site, for example, he's not making those same claims that he has before. This is something that you see all the time in terms of attacks that are leveled against Republicans when they campaign on these things. And they're hammered for it, and they should be, frankly. Obviously, I have no issue with that. It seems like in this case, at the very least, I think the same level of pressure hasn't been on the congressman. I think in part that's probably because, like I said, the second time around, it's been pushed more so in terms of criticism from his wife, soon to be ex-wife. So,
right.
Look, I think if part of your campaign message to voters is I am a family man and this is important to me, and that's very clearly and very quickly exposed as a lie, I think that holds different weight than someone who isn't portraying himself as that, right? And so certainly, I mean, look, if I'm being frank with you, I don't know why anyone would run for office in the first place. It's not a job I have any interest in having.
Well, I agree with you there.
I think at the least that family affairs should be more important in one's personal life than this. That would be my assessment.
Yeah, understand. And listen, in a perfect world, I think you would agree with me. We'd like all of our politicians and our leaders to not cheat on their spouses. And
of course.
No question. But, listen, I have to go back to Donald Trump. I mean,
sure.
If there's anybody that has cheated on their spouses more than any other politician in office right now, I would say Donald Trump is probably at the top of the list. But Republicans had no problem in supporting him, and many Republicans still support him, even though he's had 25 women accusing him of sexual assault or rape, including his ex-wife. Obviously, Horsford hasn't had any of that. The only thing we know for sure, and I think you'll agree with me on this, is that, and he admitted it, he cheated on his wife. He had a 10-year extramarital affair. But to my knowledge, he hasn't had anybody come forward that has accused him of rape or sexual assault, right?
I think it's an entirely fair point to make. And also, I think certainly we've seen in the age of Donald Trump, politicians feel more emboldened to move on from these things and continue their political careers, where I think at one point in time it would be something that they would immediately leave a race from.
Yeah.
And we're in an environment now where that doesn't happen as often. So I think that's spot on. One thing that I wonder when it comes to media coverage is, we saw it to a certain extent in the Kavanaugh hearings, where you had some accusations that kind of started his confirmation process that were immediately followed with, hey, Michael Avenatti, very claim that I think even in mainstream and liberal media was regarded fairly unseriously. And I think that certainly muddied the waters a bit in the sense that it gives certainly defenders of, in this case, Brett Kavanaugh, or when you're talking about Donald Trump, something to latch on to say, hey, people are out to get him. And in some cases they may be right, and in other cases they may not be.
Right.
But I think, at the very least, Donald Trump has been able to weaponize this idea that, hey, people are after me and they're attacking me, and they're attacking me with bogus claims. And in some cases he may be right, and in others he may be entirely wrong. But I think that opens up a shred of doubt that his supporters are able to sort of latch on to and attack. But you're spot on that the response from the congressman has been very different. And like I said, I think at a different age, he drops out immediately. That's not the one that we're in, and you can argue that's for better or worse. But I think that's our environment.
Yeah, my only point that I make, and listen, I'm not a journalist. I used to be. I used to be a reporter. I'm a talk show host. And my opinion is this:
sure.
you could tell me whether you disagree or not. For the Republicans out there that are going after Stephen Horsford and saying he should be out of the race because he had an extramarital affair, if they supported Donald Trump, then they have no leg to stand on, and I call that the definition of hypocrisy. Am I wrong?
I think it's fair. The only point that I would make is I don't think journalists should be arguing that you should leave the race. I think journalists should be reporting on what was said.
I'm just saying in general terms, not journalists.
No, totally.
Yeah. I'm not even saying a journalist. Yeah, I'm just saying voters in general. Yep.
Fair.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, what someone who would defend one person and not the other would say is that in one case it is illegitimate, in one case it is legitimate. I'm not making that argument myself by any means.
Right. There are levels, right? I mean, Bill Clinton was accused of rape. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think Bill Clinton is probably a rapist. Donald Trump has been accused of rape. I'm not going to sit here and say there's no chance that happened either. There's different levels, right? This guy had an extramarital affair. Sam Peters, his opponent, had a divorce. This is a nasty divorce. The wife is clearly hurt. I guess I'm the type of person where I care more about what they do in office. And I'm not saying this story shouldn't be covered. I had no problem with your article, by the way. No problem at all. I wanted to ask you this, because you guys are known, the Washington Free Beacon. You sound like a very reasonable, fair-minded guy. And trust me, I don't say that about everybody. But the Washington, you do. You really do. The Washington Free Beacon is known as a right-wing publication. Do you have a problem with that when people label a publication right-wing or left-wing?
Well, look, I'll tell you what I think about the larger media landscape, which is that the sort of outlets that are identified as mainstream are almost exclusively making editorial decisions in terms of what they cover about how a story can hurt someone and help someone else. That's nothing new that's in media.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something that doesn't exist in the mainstream scale. In fact, I would argue that it exists just as much in the mainstream scale.
Yeah.
So what I would take issue with more is, to me, when an outlet is forthcoming about its identity. I think, in my opinion, that opens up us at the Washington Free Beacon and up into a bit more scrutiny of people who are going to look at what we're saying through a bit more of a microscope and look at our sourcing and look at our claims and look at our evidence. Because again, we aren't hiding behind any mainstream label, right? And so I don't have any particular problem with the tag that's applied to us. I would say the problem that I have is that it isn't applied to nearly as many outlets as it should be on the other side.
Right. And listen, MSNBC far to the left. I'm not sure CNN is as far to the left as some people want to make that claim. Certainly Fox News is far to the right. I don't watch MSNBC. I don't really watch Fox News. I remember the show Hannity and Combs, right? I used to watch that show all the time because I liked hearing both sides. And I wish more people in the media would do that. I want to get your take on this. You follow politics. You're there in Washington. So I want to ask you, there are a lot of Republicans running for office across the country that are not willing to admit that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. These are weird times we are living in. Number one, I want to get your take on that. And number two, do you find that as an attack on our democracy when there's no evidence to support the fact that Trump won the 2020 election of widespread voter fraud? I mean, what do you make of that in the era we're living in now?
Well, look, if you're asking me if I think that Joe Biden was legitimately elected president of the United States, I do. In terms of your second question, I don't think that these are good arguments to be made that reflect well on our country when so much of the, quote unquote evidence that's pointed to falls flat pretty quickly. I think skepticism is good. I think looking at these things through, sort of a healthy skeptic's lens is not a bad thing. I think the problem is standing behind it when your skepticism very clearly falls flat. That's the main issue that I have with it. What I will say is that I think there are some legitimate things that Republicans can point to in the sense of when you look at, for example, the Hunter Biden laptop story and the censorship on Twitter and the idea that this was immediately dismissed in national security circles and in mainstream media as a Russian disinformation effort. It wasn't. We know it wasn't. Do I think that, without that effort, that Donald Trump wins in 2020? Frankly, I don't. But for people who are pointing at that and wondering, hey, this was a pretty clear media, kind of effort here to, at the very least, not let this story tip the scales. I understand frustration over this. I still think Biden probably wins anyway, if I'm being totally honest.
Can I ask you about that, though, Collin?
Sure.
You bring up a good point. Let me ask you about that. The thing that I would say to that is, well, first of all, this is the president's son. He's never been a politician before. And the other thing I would say to that is, what has he been charged with? I understand he's still under investigation. Listen, if they find something in those laptops, because we heard that he was having sex with underage girls, I haven't seen any evidence to prove that. But listen, let me be clear. If he broke any laws, I want him to go to jail. I'm an independent, just like I would want anybody. I'm just waiting to see any evidence that there's actually stuff on that laptop to prove that he broke the law. And if he did, then go ahead and go to jail. But I'm like, where's the evidence, Collin? That's all I'm asking for.
Well, hey, we'll see if charges come. I don't know if there's evidence to lead to them because I'm not a prosecutor. But one thing I can tell you is, at the very least, there's evidence on the laptop to disprove things that Joe Biden has said, which essentially is that he has never discussed his son's business or met with his son's business partners. And we know that to be false at this point in time. And so, at the very least, this sort of pay-to-play access, foreign business dealings, I don't think they're a particularly good look for the president. If they're illegal or not, I think it's a legitimate criticism of him. And I think that legitimate criticism was moved pretty quickly to be, dismissed. And it wasn't just moved to be swept under the rug. It was moved to be discredited. There's a big difference between a media outlet not covering a story, which can be bad enough, and a media outlet covering a story in a way to downplay it when it shouldn't be. That's what I think happened. Like I said, I think it's odd when, I hear some conservatives talk about, hey, we need to focus on the real issues, inflation, the economy, crime, and things of this nature. And they simultaneously argue that if this laptop story isn't, isn't tossed to the side, that Trump wins. I don't think that the laptop is a top 5 ranking issue for voters.
I agree.
Frankly, I don't think that it would have changed the outcome, but it's a fair question to have. And obviously the way that it was handled was still wrong. And so I understand people that point to that. The other stuff I don't particularly want to engage in.
Right. No, I'm with you. Again, if you're just joining us, he is Collin Anderson from the Washington Free Beacon. A couple more questions for you, Collin, then we'll let you go. We appreciate you coming on. All right. We're less than a week away from these elections. I hear different things from different people, but a lot of Democrats seem to be worried. I went and I voted the other day, and I talked to some people at that voting center, and they said, yeah, the turnout's very low. I think it's obvious to me that if the turnout is low, that's advantage to Republicans. Talk to me about your feeling being in Washington. I know it's different there than it is here, but across the country, I'm feeling a concern from Democrats that this is going to be a low voter turnout. What do you say?
Yeah, well, look, in Nevada specifically, I'm not John Ralston, but I do read the guy, and I was on the ground in Las Vegas not long ago, just the other week, attending some campaign events, talking to voters, things of this nature. Look, I live in Virginia. Last year in 2021, we saw Glenn Youngkin win a race that surprised a ton of people in Virginia. And I don't think it was all that difficult to forecast, just because when you looked at poll after poll and you toss aside the ratings of support, you know, this candidate has X amount versus the other, and you look at the issues that people are ranking. The issues that they were ranking the highest, we knew they trusted Glenn Youngkin more. And that's the example I'm using in 2021, because I think this year it's essentially the same thing. Abortion is a fairly high-ranking issue. It is not as high as the economy. It is not as high in inflation. In some cases, it isn't as high as crime. It depends on the poll that you're looking at. And so I think this is the biggest thing. We've seen all sorts of problems with polling in the last couple of cycles, but I think the issues that people cite, they're not just seen in polls. They're seen on a very widespread anecdotal level when you talk to people about kitchen table issues. In terms of turnout, you know, look, again, I've in Nevada specifically, I've been reading Ralston, and he seems to think that the mail-in votes are pretty low. The only thing I would push back on tentatively is that I'm not 100% convinced in this day and age that high turnout is bad for Republicans. What we saw in Donald Trump's 2016 win, what we saw in Virginia last year in that election that I cited, we saw extremely high turnout, and we saw Republican wins. Now, obviously, in 2020, we saw even higher turnout that led to a fairly narrow electoral college loss. It also led to plenty of Republican wins in very highly contested Senate seats and very highly contested House seats. So I'm not necessarily – I know that that's an age-old sort of mantra, and I'm not necessarily dismissing that it was true in the past. It most certainly was. I'm not sure if it is in this era, which is the one thing that I find very intriguing about this race. But to your point, yeah, in a lot of states, Nevada in particular, the early turnouts that I'm seeing are not promising for Dems, and we know that their strategy is to bank a lead going into Election Day, and then hope that Republican voters showing up in person on Election Day can't eat at that lead too much to secure a win. Based on the levels we're seeing now, perhaps they change. But based on the levels we're seeing now, I don't think Democrats would be particularly confident that they built enough of a firewall here.
Agree. And you mentioned John Ralston. He's a great guy. He comes on this show all the time. Love John. He's awesome at what he does. So I want to move on to Pelosi. This will be my last question for you, the Paul Pelosi attack. Tell me if you agree or disagree with me here. You remember when Steve Scalise was shot? Horrible situation. Bernie Sanders supporter. Nancy Pelosi was one of the first people to come out and say, this is horrible, this is wrong. I didn't see one prominent Democrat putting funny memes up or making jokes or putting up conspiracy theories. Now, I'm not saying every Republican's doing that, because they're not, as you know, Collin, but the president's son putting up funny memes, Donald Trump in a way blaming Nancy Pelosi for the attack on the policies that she's put forth. I've seen Ted Cruz and others with conspiracy theories. Even the owner of Twitter now, Elon Musk, retweeted a conspiracy theory. What do you make of this, and what do you make of the contingent of Republicans that are kind of making light of this violent attack?
Well, I think a lot of the response has been troubling. I also think a lot of the response has been mischaracterized in the sense of, again, this is what I think I often refer back to when people want to source why Republicans are frustrated with the media and things that they see in media, which is to say a lot of the coverage that I saw, for example, in the Washington Post and New York Times, wrote with a very straight tone in a very objective way that Republicans did not immediately come out and condemn this. And lots of extremely high-profile ones did. Now, again, to your point, that's not to say that there haven't been other reactions. But I guess what I'm saying is, what I think is interesting is this idea of, you know, sort of a narrative that a certain portion of the country's electorate from a political standpoint wants to believe, which is that Republicans didn't come out and condemn this and don't care about it. And you have reporters on that side of the aisle who just assume that this is true. And so there isn't the legwork to show that it isn't. And they print things like that. And then Republicans look at them and think, well, that's not true.
Right.
And all of a sudden, again, it muddies the waters to how they trust those outlets and those reporters to tell them the information in this case.
Right.
So, to your point, like, I don't think that some of these responses have been appropriate, but also when those are the only ones that are being elevated, when there were, again, I think a very large number of immediate condemnations that seem to be kind of cast to the side, I can understand how someone can look at that coverage and think they don't particularly care about giving me facts here. And there's a narrative. And I think, like, obviously I wish that wouldn't happen, because in this case, we're dealing with something that is extremely serious. And anytime that there is, faith undermined in the facts being reported from certain places, that's not going to be a good thing.
No question.
That's one thing that I found interesting about this.
No question. Obviously, you had Kerry Lake that made a joke the other day, which was inappropriate. Youngkin says, I denounce violence, but then he says, we're going to get Nancy Pelosi out of office. And my only thought was, can you wait a day? This guy's in surgery. He's, maybe not fighting for his life, but he's lucky to be alive. That was my thought. Even the people that aren't putting out the funny memes, I think we agree on that. It's all inappropriate. It should all be denounced. And hopefully, Paul Pelosi makes a full recovery. Well, Collin, I got to say, I really did enjoy our conversation. There are some biased journalists on the left. There are plenty of biased journalists on the right. You certainly don't seem like one of those people, and it's been a breath of fresh air to have this conversation with you. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we can get you on again sometime soon. I really appreciate your time, Collin. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Happy to talk whenever.
Thank you, Collin. Again, that is Collin Anderson with the Washington Free Beacon. Okay, well, that was a breath of fresh air. I have to say, I shouldn't say I'm in shock, because that's unfair. There are a lot of good journalists out there. But when I hear that somebody works for a right-wing publication, usually, not all the time, usually they back Donald Trump. They won't hold him accountable for anything. They won't hold Republicans accountable for it, and vice versa. There are journalists on the left that do the exact same thing. And when I hear Collin say that Joe Biden's a free and fair elected president, I was like, what? What did he just say? I can't believe that. Breath of fresh air. And just about most of what he said, I agree with as well. Very well-spoken, articulate in his answers, and very fair. Listen, the Stephen Horsford story is a story. I had him in studio yesterday. I asked him very fair questions, and I can tell he was a little agitated. He didn't enjoy it. Why would he enjoy talking about a nasty divorce with his wife? That's not a fun topic to talk about, especially when it's a week before the elections. But to Stephen Horsford's credit, and I was very impressed with the way he answered, he was very forthcoming. He owned his mistakes. He also said that his wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, was very hurt. Anybody in life, these are human beings. I know I've done it, and I know you've done it. When you have a nasty breakup, no matter whose fault it is, sometimes you're emotional, and sometimes you say things you don't mean. And I feel like Stephen Horsford's wife has done that. She's hurt. He made a mistake. He had an extramarital affair that lasted 10 years. I can't even imagine how difficult that has been on the family. He made a terrible mistake. Now, he didn't break the law. He didn't pay a porn star $120,000 to have sex with her after his wife has a child like Trump did. He didn't do what Bill Clinton did. He hasn't been accused of sexual assault or rape. The man made a mistake. But I'm still voting for Stephen Horsford. He's a passionate guy. I agree with him when it comes to gun control. For the most part, when it comes to abortion, I don't agree with him when it comes to the late-term abortion stuff. But for the most part, when it comes to abortion, I agree with him. I like what he's trying to do to lower the cost of insulin and drugs. I like what he's trying to do to lower the cost of rent. People are struggling. I like Stephen Horsford, the totality of the person. Don't agree with everything he's done in his life. But I voted for Stephen Horsford because his opponent is a complete buffoon. Sam Peters is an idiot. He's a disgrace. I respect him for serving this country honorably, but you can still be a moron and serve. Sam Peters is unwilling to admit what this journalist, who I have respect for, and Collin Anderson just said, that Joe Biden is a free and fair elected president. Sam Peters refuses to say that. Sam Peters does not want you to have student loan debt forgiveness, yet he had no problem getting his loan forgiven during COVID. That is the definition of a hypocrite. He is a hypocrite. He puts "Let's Go Brandon" in one of his radio ads, which means F Joe Biden. How can you respect somebody like that? I have almost no respect for Sam Peters. The only reason why I have a little respect for him, because he did serve this country. But the rest of his life, no respect. The way he's handled his campaign, holding a press conference, going after Stephen Horsford because he had an extramarital affair. Let's find out Sam Peters and why he divorced his first wife. What happened there? Let's get into that. Let's interview his ex-wife. No, I wouldn't do that because I don't care. Sam Peters is an election denier, and he's a fraud, and that's why I voted for Stephen Horsford yesterday. I voted for a few Republicans yesterday, by the way. I didn't go down the line and vote for every Democrat, but one Republican I would never vote for is Sam Peters, because he is a clown. He is a buffoon, and he wears the Donald Trump knee pads, and I don't respect people like that. He is the definition of what hypocrisy is. I appreciate Collin joining the program. I really did enjoy that conversation. I really did. There are reasonable conservatives out there in the media that I can talk to. Collin is one of them. There are others that I cannot. And I had no idea how that interview was going to go. But as soon as he started answering my questions, I say, okay, this guy's smart. He knows what he's doing. He's answering the questions honestly. That's what I want from a journalist. I don't care whether you're a Republican or Democrat. Just cover stories fairly. And you know what? The Washington Free Beacon has a good one there. And I appreciate Collin taking the time to join us. I really do. I want to tell you guys about my favorite gaming bar in town. It really is Jackson's Bar and Grill. Every Sunday in November, you get $50 free play after earning 200 points. Every Tuesday and Thursday, there's a free wine giveaway if you earn 200 points. Some restrictions do apply. Every VGK game, all TVs and sound are on, and they do the pass the puck. You win up to $100 in free play per period just for playing. It's pretty cool. You hit a 4 of a kind. The puck is passed to you, and if you have the puck by the end of the period, you win $100 free slot play. How cool is that? That's a lot of fun, man. Gives you another reason to root for VGK and the Knights, who, by the way, are off to a wonderful start this year. Man, they're doing awesome. Please check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, oh boy, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting. This guy was the talk of the country and maybe even the world close to 30 years ago. Probably for the wrong reasons. I think we all could have been on that. His name is John Wayne Bobbitt. If you recall, he was lying in bed with his wife at the time, Lorraine Bobbitt, and she cut off his pee-pee. Yes. He has been the laughingstock, and maybe that's very unfair, for 3 decades. But I wanted to catch up with John Wayne Bobbitt, and I want to see how he's doing. Not necessarily how his junk is doing, but how he's doing as a human being. So John Wayne Bobbitt will be joining us next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Just Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges and his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555.
This announcement is brought to you by the Armed Forces Chamber, Nevada's largest and oldest chamber of commerce, formed to serve armed forces members. Your opinion matters. Your vote counts. You can make history. Vote Patsy Brown as the first female to be public administrator. Patsy Brown is a contract lawyer. Patsy Brown is a federal contractor with 15 years of experience. Patsy Brown is a business owner with 25 years of experience. Patsy Brown is a philanthropist. Patsy Brown is a Rotarian. Patsy Brown is endorsed by attorneys, business owners, community leaders, legislators, pastors, seniors, and veterans. Vote Patsy Brown from October 22nd through November 4th and November 8th. Learn more at votepatsybrown.com. Again, that's votepatsybrown.com. Paid for by friends who vote Patsy Brown.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. Located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices. Office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Your home for the Radio Shopping Show, 1400 KSHP North Las Vegas. Online at kshp.com.
All right, welcome back. It's Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. Quick programming note, by the way. Tomorrow on the show, my man, Mac Miller is going to be joining us in studio, along with JJ Snyder. She's going to be giving us the rundown of what's going on in Vegas this weekend. Timothy Treffinger, who's running for the DA against Steve Wolfson, is going to be joining us in studio as well. So we got a jam-packed show lined up for you tomorrow. All right, so I'm going to take you back to 1993. A relationship between Lorena Bobbitt and John Wayne Bobbitt. They were married at the time. They were, at least John was asleep in his bed when in the middle of the night, his wife at the time cut off his genitalia. This happened many, many years ago. She accused him of rape and sexual assault, and she never really spent any time in jail. She was charged but acquitted. This was many, many years ago. We just had a special that came out last year. I think it was marking somewhere around the 25-year anniversary. And I wanted to catch up with John Wayne Bobbitt, see how he's doing. And John Wayne Bobbitt joins us right now. John, how's it going, man? How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Brian?
Doing okay. Sorry about
that.
Well, maybe I should ask you that question, John. How you been? I mean, I know that you spent some time living in Las Vegas for a little bit, and you moved. Where are you at right now?
In Delaware.
Oh, why the move to Delaware?
Just different. Well, I have a lot of family and friends out here, so I decided to move out here. Plus, things got rough for me there in Vegas. You know, the economy, everything skyrocketed as far as prices and all that.
Right.
And I'm permanently disabled because I was, stationed at Camp Lejeune.
Right.
And it got exposed to those toxins and caused a lot of damage to my body. So
I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm really, really sorry to hear that. I have to ask you this question, John, and I know you've been asked this question before. Does it still bother you to this day that some people that don't know you personally define you as, oh, that's the guy that got his pee-pee cut off? I mean, I would imagine you still get that all the time. Does that bother you? We're almost 30 years later.
Not really. I had a good doctor that it basically, put it back on and still works. So I think it had a lot to do with being a Marine and as healthy as I was. There wasn't, I think I was the only successful surgery in history. So
yeah, I
got to be proud of that,
One of a kind, that's for sure.
Proud of it. I'm fine, except for now the toxic chemical damage.
Right. That's obviously more serious today for you. No question about that. If you had an opportunity, because I don't think you've been able to, would you talk to Lorena? I mean, today, if you had that opportunity?
Well, it would be with some professional people, like a psychologist.
Right.
because you got to understand the psychology of what happened to me. She was really mad because she didn't want a divorce. She wanted the American dream. She only had a year left to get her citizenship, but I was done. I wanted to move on, and that really made her really upset. That's why she, cut off my penis. Not because there was her excuse of me being abusive. It was the other way around. She was the abusive one. That's why I kept leaving her, and that's why she kept getting upset because of the abandonment, and she thought I was having an affair. She was never abused. That was a big lie and just a bunch of made up stories.
But that's what got her off, right? In the courtroom,
Yeah.
that's what got her off because the jury believed that you were abusive towards her, correct, John?
Yeah. Well, they made a good argument. They had a bunch of people came into the courtroom to actually lie for Lorena. It's called flying monkeys.
Yeah.
Psychologically called flying monkeys. If you can get people to lie for you, yeah. She had time after the attack. She went to her boss's house, and they had time to work on a story. A false script, a false narrative. So they did that, and then they went to the police station and was interviewed by the detective. Lorena couldn't stay on script, so they cut the interview short. It was only last 10 to 15 minutes.
Right.
So they had, her boss said, "Okay, we gotta lawyer up. You got to end this interview," but she didn't say that on tape.
Sure. I wanted to ask you this though, John, because not many people have to deal with the media coverage and everyone talking about getting into your personal life. In 94, 95, I would imagine everybody wanted to interview you. Everybody wanted to talk to you. Every news station was talking about you. The world was talking about you. What was that like for you personally? Most people, only a handful of people will ever get the opportunity to have to experience. I'm not talking about the actual violent act that took place. I'm talking about thereafter, the media coverage and everything. What was that like for you personally, and how did you handle that? Everybody wanting to interview you, everybody wanting a piece of you, wanted to talk to you.
It was exciting back then. I was young, and I was, had women throwing themselves at me, and making Lorena more mad than she already was. And I had a good time, but I never really actually told my story. I never actually let people know all the details and the facts and evidence of the story. And still today, no one knows the whole story, of how she got away with it. How Casey and Anthony got away with it. OJ got away with it.
Mm-hmm.
All these people got away with it because, I would say, I coined the phrase, buying time to get away with the crime. If you can do a criminal act and have time before you're brought in, to figure something out, you can manipulate using a lot of narcissistic, tactics, gaslighting, blame shifting, all that stuff to confuse everybody. And if you have support for people that don't want you to go to prison, like, good attorneys and people that have a lot of money and finance and influence, you can fool.
Sure. So John,
the judge and jury and the prosecutors.
When you see somebody like Bill Cosby get out, when you see OJ, got out, I know that was many, many years ago, but when you see these high profile celebrities that are able to get off on, what I would consider very violent crimes, does that bring you back to your situation a lot? It reminds you of what Lorena did to you.
Well, in my case, I'm different. I'm the victim.
Right.
That was made to be the villain. I was never the villain. I never abused Lorena. So, right. But their whole game plan to getting off was to make the victim the villain. Mm-hmm. Women don't want to be the villain and do everything they can to convince people that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're a guy. So you were victimized, by a woman. Yeah. How are you going to defend yourself?
Yeah. No, understood. And there was no real evidence. To be clear, so everyone knows, there was no real evidence put forth by her team to prove that you were violent towards her or abusive or really anything, right? I mean, there was, I want to be very clear, and I've met you personally. You're a very nice guy. You've always been nice to me. I don't see anything that would show me that you were abusive towards anybody. I want to be very, very clear on that. Let me ask you a personal question. You don't seem like a guy that minds answering personal questions, so I'll ask one. Because of who you are and because of what happened to you and what Lorena did to you, How many women do you think you've actually slept with? And the only reason why they slept with you, I mean, you're a good looking guy, but the reason why they slept with you was because you're John Wayne Bobbitt from what took place in 93. How many do you think?
Well, I was in the Marine Corps, so I was kind of, promiscuous in the Marines with a bunch of Marine friends. And that's before I married Lorena. And I was still kind of promiscuous when I was married to her. The only reason why we were married is because she asked me so she could stay in the country. That's the only reason why we were married.
Right.
It wasn't because I loved her and I wanted to, I was advised not to marry her, but I was being a nice guy. No good deed goes unpunished. But I didn't make it a habit of sleeping with a lot of women. Afterwards. But I did the adult films. That was a lot of fun. For a young guy.
Can I ask you about that? How did that even come about? Did somebody reach out to you and say, "Hey, John, we want you to be a porn star"? Like, how did that get started? How did you get into the porn business?
I went to. I was hanging out with LaToya Jackson at the time. Her and her husband. We had a invite to a Playboy Wet and Wild party. So I met some people there, and some producers wanted me to do a cameo in a film. And it led to doing a full movie and telling my story, but it wasn't like it was kind of like it was a short narrative story of my it didn't explain everything. It was
it's a porn, of course.
Explain everything.
Right.
It was a lot of dialogue, and it was a lot. Man, if you were hanging out with me back then, you know how much fun you would have had.
I can only imagine.
Man,
I wish I knew you back then. I was a little too young back then, but I wish I did. You did the Howard Stern show multiple times. The reason why I got into radio is because of Howard Stern. What was that experience like? I mean, you appeared on his show multiple times, right?
Yeah, he's a character. He's I don't know. He's intimidating when you're on a show and. He's in there. You don't know what he's going to ask you. You're going to be, he's surprising. So you got to be witty, with him. I like the guy. He's great.
Yeah, I love him too. That's why I got into radio. So I got a message on social media. Somebody wanted me to ask you this question, so I guess I'll just ask it. You were sleeping at the time. Did you wake up right away? Like how did that? I'm just, without getting, I guess, too graphic, when she did this to you, you were asleep, right? Did you wake up the instant she took the knife to your member? Like, that's the question that wanted.
Yeah, right away. And then when I woke up, I was, the only guy, was the only person in the room bleeding. And, she had ran out of the room real fast and down into her car. But I didn't realize she did it. I didn't see anybody in the room when I woke up.
Right.
And at that split moment, I thought Freddy Krueger did it.
Oh my God.
That's what I thought, really, because it was horrific. And I'm not kidding around.
Yeah.
I thought, Krueger, his arm came through the wall and cut my penis off.
What's the first thing you do? Do you call 911? What do you do?
Yeah.
You called 911 right away.
Right. Horrific. No.
What do you tell the 911 dispatcher?
No. There's no phone calls, or we didn't have cell phones back then.
Oh wow. Okay. So do you drive yourself to the hospital? What happens next?
Well, my friend was sleeping in the living room. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. He was sleeping on the couch, and I told Lorena I wanted a divorce and I was going to move out, but the agreement was when we finally discussed everything, she wanted to move out, and she was hanging around for like 4 days. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. She wasn't going anywhere. She basically set the trap. It's either we stay married or she was going to cut my penis off.
Well, let me be very clear. She should have gone to, I know she spent like 45 days in jail. She should have spent years in jail. That's my personal opinion, and I'm sure you agree. Okay, so you tell your roommate, he sees you're bleeding. He take you to the hospital. Is that what happens?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He was an engineer. He just graduated from University of Buffalo, and he had a real fast Mustang that he built, a 1966 fastback Mustang. like a 400 horsepower engine in it. So I just was holding on to my groin area and applying pressure at the time.
Are you
just
wondering
getting
where
him-
did it go? Are you like, where is it? Where did it go? Are you wondering what she did with it?
I was at that time. I just basically told him, I told him keep me awake, and I want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, because at that point you don't know who did it, but I would imagine you probably suspect who did it.
Well, because Johnny Depp did a scene in the Freddy Krueger movie. His name was Glenn, and he was in bed, and Freddy Krueger attacked him while he was in bed.
Right. I never saw that scene, but I might have to check that one out. I'm wondering, you're holding your groin, you're going to the hospital. I can't imagine what's going through your mind at that time. Are you thinking to yourself at any point, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to have sex again?
I thought I was going to die, really.
Yeah. Because you're bleeding everywhere, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And my blood's everywhere. And he's trying to get me in the hospital. I'm in and out. I'm in shock. So I'm kind of, I'm in and out,
Yeah.
So trying to give him directions to the hospital. So we got
there.
there.
Surgery. They just do surgery on you immediately. And I know they were able to find your member. I guess she threw it out the window in front of a 7-Eleven is my understanding. How they were able to find it is a miracle in itself, right?
Well, I just recently, HLN did a documentary recently, and I just watched it last night. It was called Lorena Tick Tick Boom, and how it really happened. It was the episode. So one of the police that found it said he found it because he had stepped on it.
Oh my God.
That's how it was found.
That's how he found it. Oh my God, that's crazy. So he finds it. They obviously bring it to the hospital. They're able to reattach it, which is a miracle in itself. The moment that you realized that everything was going to be okay physically with you, when do you think that moment happened? I would imagine it was days after surgery.
It was probably about 3 days after the surgery. Because it's all, I'm all wrapped up in sutures, and it looks like a football.
Yeah.
All swollen, stitches. So
I would imagine that was a pretty big relief when you had a conversation with your doctor, and the doctor said you should make, for the most part, a full recovery.
Well, they were skeptical because they didn't know whether or not it was going to take. Because if the surgery wasn't successful, it would just turn black and fall off. When you connect.
Talk about a guy's worst nightmare. Like, I can't even, and I don't mean to laugh because I feel horrible for what you've had to go through, but at the same time, it's like, I can't even comprehend this, right? I can't recall another story since then where a woman did this. Can you?
Well, I keep track of them, and they're uncommon, but they happened recently.
Wow.
Be quiet. So, it happened like 17 times between 1836 and 1993, and then those are the historic ones. Wow. And I checked them all out, everyone. And then after my case in 1993, it happened like probably around over like 250 times. A lot of copycat crimes recently.
Oh my God!
So you can look them up.
I was totally unaware of this. Why do you think those stories don't make anywhere near the press that what you went through?
Well, as women were, I don't know, they're convicted, and the Kathy Caillou Becker, she cut her husband's penis off while he was sleeping. Actually, she tied him up first.
Oh my God!
She tied his arms and legs and cut it off and put it in the garbage disposal.
Oh my God!
She got life in prison in 2013.
I was unaware of that. Have you ever spoken to any of these victims? Because sadly, you have this.
No, I research them and I keep track of all of them, but I don't. I mean, there's a lot of people I like to interview. Like Casey Anthony and Jodi Arias and these other women.
Yeah, how Casey Anthony was able to not get convicted is beyond me. I'm glad Jodi Arias is behind bars.
Well,
yeah,
they didn't have the information that they should have had. The jury didn't have the new information that they found after she had gotten acquitted, which was she looked on a different browser, looked up on a different browser, foolproof suffocation. The day her daughter became missing. Foolproof suffocation.
How
But
are
they
you
didn't have
able?
that evidence. They didn't have that evidence.
I have to ask you this mentally, how were you able to sleep in a bed with another woman after what happened to you? How long did it take for you to do that?
Well, I had to recover. So, I mean, I started recovering kind of pretty fast. And then sorry, you got the dogs barking.
That's okay. No problem.
Make
sure they don't bite your peanut. I'm sorry.
It did take long. And, 3 months later, I was dating and, getting things back working down there,
But you understand
wasn't working well.
You understand, John, why I asked that question. I mean, to a normal person, if that happens to you, I would imagine it would take years and years and years for you to have any trust in any woman lying next to somebody, right?
Yeah, but that's probably why I'm still single.
Yeah, well, that's understandable, John. If there's anybody where it's understandable why they would be single, it would be you. I totally get that. Because of what happened to you, though, we've talked about some positives from it. I would imagine you've met a lot of famous people, right? We've talked about you going on the Howard Stern show. You hung out with LaToya Jackson. What are some of the people that you would say that you're so appreciative that you were able to meet because of, sadly, what happened to you?
Well, I met a lot of celebrities, but I don't know. I had a lot of fun. We guess it was 15 minutes.
Yeah,
it was a little longer than 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
Hey, I have a hard time hearing you.
Oh, that's okay. Well, John,
it's like these dogs are distracting me.
I understand. Well, John, listen, we'll let you go. I want to say it's great to catch up with you. We'll have you on again. Whenever you come back to Vegas, please hit me up. We'll get you in studio. We'll hang out, dinner on me. And I'm glad you're doing okay, my friend. And I appreciate you coming on. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks,
I'll
John.
talk to you later.
Talk
All
to you
right,
later, John. All right. There you go. That's John Wayne Bobbitt. I said, I hope the dogs don't bite him in a bad spot, but I appreciate John joining us. John Wayne Bobbitt's a good guy. He's a normal guy. He's a good guy. It just so happened that his life was turned completely upside down with what Lorena did to him. And there are other stories that I've seen online that I was unaware of that I'm learning about, where a woman has cut off a man's genitalia and, throwing it out the window. It's happened on multiple other occasions, several other occasions it's happened. So I guess copycat type situations, I don't know. I just wonder what it's like. And I asked him this question. I wonder what it's like to have everybody on the planet recognize you, not because you did movies, not because you did pornography, not because you're a politician. Everybody on the planet that recognizes you and knows your name, and your life is defined in a split second because at the time your wife cut off your penis. His life is defined by that. I'm at a loss for words. I don't even know what to say about that. That is so weird and so strange. But John Wayne Bobbitt has made the best of it. First of all, I'm glad that he's doing okay. And I'm glad that he's able to at least go out with other women and do his thing. I just don't know if someone did that to me. I'm not sure how I could ever go out with a woman again. But he seems to be doing all right. I remember back in the day where he used to make regular appearances on the Howard Stern show. And, of course, Howard, to his expense, would make a lot of jokes about this. And rightfully so. A lot of people make jokes about it, but there's certainly nothing funny about what he had to go through that day and the days after that. I can't even imagine how painful that must have been. But I'm glad he's got his dogs, who we heard in the background. I'm glad he's doing better. And we'll definitely hear from John Wayne Bobbitt again. Women can also be the cause of domestic violence. Okay. John Wayne Bobbitt was not an abuser. It was not proven that he ever beat up anybody and he put his hands on a woman. That was the defense. It was not proven. She's a very good actress. And I know John Wayne Bobbitt personally. I've hung out with him. He's a normal, decent guy. I've seen him around women. He's very respectful. So I don't buy any of that stuff, but I know that was a long time ago. Gosh, I was 13 years old when that happened. 13. I don't even know if I was post-puberty yet when that stuff happened. That was a very, very long time ago. Anyway, appreciate John Wayne Bobbitt coming on. He's a good guy. I'm glad he's doing okay, and appreciate him taking the time. All right, here's what we're going to do. I am going to talk some Raiders when we come back. Why? Well, for a lot of different reasons. There were rumors circulating that Josh McDaniels could get fired this week. I'm not one of those people. I didn't say it. I didn't think it was going to happen. Mark Davis is now commenting on those rumors. We'll tell you exactly what he had to say at practice today. Also, there is the general manager of the Raiders who is also frustrated, and he's speaking about those frustrations and the overall plan. Derek Carr, he's got back problems, we're learning. He got hurt a few weeks ago. How serious is the injury? And is it more serious than Raiders people will lead you to believe? So a lot of Raiders drama to talk about as they prepare for the game against the Jaguars. We're going to talk about it when we come back. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Just Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges and his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555. Hey, everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site X-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
A great time! Your entertainment destination, the South Point, invites you to experience the ultimate great time under one roof. Bowling, dancing, a live show, a movie, delicious dining, and one of South Point's 11 restaurants. So much to see, so much to do. You won't know where to start first. This week, make it a South Point week and discover for yourself why the South Point is your entertainment destination for a great time.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits, and it is a Thursday. People ask me all the time, what kind of show do you do? What do you talk about? Well, that's the kind of show that I do, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes we interview journalists who write for publications, who cover politics, and then the next segment we talk to people who got their penis cut off by their wife. That's what we do on this show, or PP. I like to use the term PP.
PP?
Yeah, PP. It's FCC regulated. That's what we do. By the way, tomorrow on the show, oh boy, it's gonna get rowdy in here, man. Mac Miller is going to be joining us in the studio. A couple days before the elections, he's fired up. He's going to be joined by Tim Treffinger, who is running for the DA here, running against Steve Wolfson. Good guy. So he's going to be joining us in studio as well with the Mac, return of the Mac, joining me in studio. And the very beautiful, talented JJ Snyder will be joining us as well. She's going to be giving us the rundown on what is going on in Vegas this week. And always great having JJ on as well. So we're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow. Well, I'll tell you some people that are not having a lot of fun. Before I get to that, I was going to mention the Raiders, but I want to talk to you guys about my good friends at Sahara West Urgent and Primary Care. They're located at 6125 West Sarah Avenue. No appointment needed. Just show up, but you can give them a call, 702-248-0554. I was in and out of there in like 20 minutes. It was awesome. Whether you're John Wayne Bobbitt and get your PP cut off, or you think you might have COVID, whatever the case may be, they'll take care of you over there at Sarah West Urgent and Primary Care. I promise you, they take most insurances, and if you don't have insurance, $95 payment. Sahara West Urgent and Primary Care, located at 6125 West Sahara Avenue. So, yeah. Go ahead.
I was looking online.
Yes.
I found a story that's great.
What does it involve?
Cutting a pee-pee off.
Oh, boy. Let's hear it.
So, wife found husband's racy emails to another woman, and she chopped it off.
Ooh. Wait, she chopped off the emails? I don't understand.
She chopped off the pee-pee.
Oh, what's a pee-pee? I don't understand. I don't know what you're saying.
Genitalia.
Oh, genitalia.
Genitalia.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
After forgetting to log out of his account, she found the messages and stormed into the bedroom where her husband was sleeping and allegedly cut off his penis with a pair of scissors.
Ooh, that's must have been a sharp pair of scissors.
Hold on.
Yeah.
It gets better. Well, worse, I should say. But the anger for her husband and father of the 5 children didn't stop there. While he was recovering in the hospital, she allegedly snipped it off again after surgeons had reattached it. She then threw it out the window. Despite losing a lot of blood, Lung chased his wife outside. Staff rushed outside to see what was happening and found the patient with blood streaming down his leg, hitting the woman. A hospital doctors said the officers failed to find his penis when they searched outside, and she was arrested for grievously bodily harm.
All right. Well, that sounds terrible. It's one thing when an ex-girlfriend or a domestic dispute, when somebody throws your CDs out the window, or maybe, I don't know, throws out your favorite poster or baseball bat. It's another thing when a woman throws out the penis out the window. That's sounds very painful. So I wish that man the best. When did that happen? Was that a while ago? That was
a while ago. That was 2015.
Ouch. Well, she pulled a Bobbitt. I mean, that's really what it is. She pulled a Bobbitt. We've called it a Bobbitt now. I wish that man the best. Thoughts and prayers to him and his PP. Anyway, a lot of people are saying thoughts and prayers to the Raiders. They're off to a terrible start this year. The season is virtually over. It's been over for a few weeks now, but it's officially over now. They have no chance of making the playoffs, right? After that performance in New Orleans that sadly I was at, it was an embarrassing performance. So there have been some rumblings, and you know how the media works, and you know how people spread rumors about Josh McDaniels. Listen, if Josh McDaniels was fired tomorrow, I would say probably the right decision, but it's not going to happen. And as I said earlier in the week, Josh McDaniels is not going to be fired, but there are people that have spread false rumors out there that McDaniels was going to be fired by the end of the week. Just to be clear, those reports are not true, according to Raiders owner Mark Davis. Mark Davis said, quote, Josh McDaniels is our head coach and will be for years to come. I have a problem with that statement. What do you mean years to come? What if he wins 4 games this year and he wins 3 or 4 games next year? You're going to bring him back for year 3? I have a problem with Mark Davis saying that. Years to come. What does that mean? He's guaranteed for 3 or 4 years? I don't know. I don't agree with that statement at all. I mean, things better improve, and they better improve quick. And by the end of next year, or at this same time next year, we're in the same position. Guy's got to go. So I don't know what Mark Davis is saying by guaranteeing this guy and saying years and years to come. I don't know. I don't agree with that statement. Maybe he's saying that because he wants to take the pressure off the head coach, but you're paying these guys a lot of money. You're paying the staff a lot of money. They should feel pressure. They haven't done the job. I don't care what system you have in place. I don't want to hear the excuses about how much time you need. You have the players on the field to have a much better record than you have. You are nowhere near getting the maximum out of the talent that you have. You have argued. Do we even have to go through this again? Derek Carr is probably a top 15 quarterback in the league. He's not terrible. You have arguably the best receiver in football. You also have Josh Jacobs, who's having an unbelievable year. You've got some pretty good defensive players as well, including Max Crosby and many others. I know some players aren't working out. I understand Darren Waller's been hurt. I get that. He better play this weekend. He should have played last weekend. But the record is undeniably pathetic, and it's embarrassing. So with that being said, the Raiders general manager, Mr. Ziegler, Dave Ziegler, is sharing his frustration with Raider Nation, and he's made some comments over the course of the last 24 hours. I'm going to read those comments to you. After the 2-5 start, Ziegler said, quote, "The frustration of the fan base is totally warranted, and I can appreciate their passion, and for me and for Josh and the organization, there's nothing more that we want than to win football games and to see this fan base get what they want. They deserve a playoff team," he said. "We can't let the results of 7 games steer us in a different direction. We have a plan. We have an approach that we're going to stick with, that we believe in." I'm not sure what that approach is. He said, "We're 7 games into a new regime, a new organization, a new way of doing things. For us, it hasn't gone as quick as we would have liked it to go, but we're not wavering from our approach. We're going to stick with our plan, improve it as we go along, and we're confident the results will come. You can make mistakes when you get over aggressive and you're just doing something to do something. At the end of the day, the value didn't fit for us. We need to execute better." Well, yeah, that's kind of obvious. Agree and disagree with some of these statements. What have you seen from Josh McDaniels? What have you seen from the play calling that would lead you to believe that this system is going to work? What have you seen from Derek Carr that would lead you to believe that Derek Carr is the guy that's going to take you to the promised land? I would say little to nothing. What have you seen from Josh McDaniels in his career? When he was the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, he had a guy by the name of Tom Brady in his prime. That helps. What did he do in Denver? What has he done since then? I look at the totality of somebody's resume. Are you getting the maximum out of the talent you had? I say that in the NBA, in college basketball, college football, pretty much in every sport. The way I look at it, coach, is I say, what are you getting from the players that you have? Are you getting the maximum out of the talent that you have? Obviously, Josh McDaniels and the coaching staff are not doing that. So there has to be some accountability. And when Mark Davis says he's going to be the coach for years to come, that raises eyebrows to me. This is the NFL. This is professional sports. The first person that usually gets blamed for a team not playing up to their standards is the head coach. Now, I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. I know that the Raiders are favored by, 1.5 points, something like that. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'll be honest with you. I would like to think that the Raiders are going to play with some heart, and they don't want to be embarrassed. And they're going to play with heart, and they're going to win a football game. I'd like to think that, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I know that Jacksonville is a hungry team. They just lost last week. They don't want to be embarrassed at home either. Don't know a lot about the Jaguars. I know they don't have a great quarterback. Their defense is okay. I don't think they're going to be pushed around. I know that Derek Carr, according to what I've heard and what I've seen, he's certainly not 100%. He has back issues. Back is a weird situation. What I don't understand is if you're going to put Derek Carr out there with the back issues that he had last week, why not put Darren Waller out there that claimed that he was ready to go? That I don't understand at all, because you need him out there. You need Darren Waller out there. Again, I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. I would like to think that the Raiders are going to show a little bit of heart, and they're going to come out there and they're going to win. But I can't sit here and tell you that I like them enough to bet them this weekend, because I have no confidence in Derek Carr. I have no confidence in the offense, and I don't have confidence that the defense is going to live up to standards after I watch them get embarrassed by the Saints last week. I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. I do think there are some high-character guys. I think Max Crosby is a very high-character guy. Josh Jacobs, high-character guy. Devontae Adams, while he's made some mistakes, I do believe he cares about winning more than anybody. He's a high-character guy. There are a lot of high-character guys in this locker room. So what's the problem? Well, I think there's a lot of problems. I think the coaching is a huge issue. I don't know. I keep hearing, well, they got a system. I've heard this from guys that cover the team every day that I respect you. Listen, they got a system in place. You got to go with the system and blah, 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 blah. What is that system? I want to hear what the system is. What is it? You've got veteran players on this team. This is not a young football team. Derek Carr is a veteran. Devontae Adams is a veteran. Darren Waller is not a rookie. There are guys out there that have been playing in the National Football League for years now. So it's not an excuse of inexperience. And I don't like it when Josh McDaniels says, well, you know what? We got to learn how to win. This team learned how to win last year. They won a lot of close games under Bisaccia. And I got to tell you, I said it last year when they decided to let the coaching staff go. And I've been saying it every single week, even the weeks where they won. I said, you should have kept the coaching staff from last year. At a minimum, keep Ole, the offensive coordinator, keep the guys in place, give them a year. I would like to think with that coaching staff last year, this team is winning more football games than they're losing. I would like to think that. Don't know that for sure, but I'd like to think that. That was a mistake. Just like when I criticized the Vegas Golden Knights, and by the way, there's not a lot of criticism this year. Cassidy seems like a very, very fit and good coach, and they a great hire. I think this was a great hire, but I criticized the Vegas Golden Knights for a lot of different things, particularly getting rid of Gerard Gallant, who was the coach of the year when they fired him. That was ridiculous. Now, this is a different situation. Not saying Bisaccia was the coach of the year, but I think that staff did a very, very good job under the circumstances. Making the playoffs was a hell of an accomplishment when you consider everything the organization had to go through that year. I'm not going to go into it. You know what they had to go through. I thought that was a really nice accomplishment. And by the way, no embarrassment losing to the Bengals that made it to the Super Bowl last year. There's no embarrassment there. I thought that was a very bad decision by Mark Davis. I don't know what they saw in Josh McDaniels. It didn't work in Denver with him. What has he accomplished as a head coach where you say he's the guy that's going to turn the Raiders around? I didn't like what they did with John Gruden. They gave him a $100 million contract for a guy that wins half his games in the NFL. I get it. He's a character. I would love to see John Gruden still here. But $10 million a year, give me a break. I'll open up the phone lines, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, now's the time. We're talking a little bit of Raiders football. What do you think about Mark Davis saying in the last 24 hours, basically saying that Josh McDaniels is going to be our coach? You know, what do you make of that? And what do you make of the fact that you have the general manager that's basically saying, guys, we just need to stay the course, go with the course, stay the course, go with the system. I have no idea what system that is. Number to call again is 702-221-7283. And again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, that number is 702-221-7283, talking Raiders football. And, you know, the thing that really gets me more than anything is that the standard seems to be very low with Raiders. It's very, very low when it comes to the Raiders. The Raiders have not won a playoff game in quite some time. And simply put, when you're paying some of these receivers the money that you're paying them, when you're paying this staff the money that you're paying them, the standard needs to be high, especially coming off of a year where you just made it to the playoffs. And I think, in my personal opinion, some of the management and upper echelon of the Raiders, while I think they are all very nice people, I've never said anything personally bad about anybody around the Raiders except for maybe Henry Ruggs, rightfully so. I think Mark Davis is a good guy. I think Josh McDaniels is a good guy, nice people within the organization and the coaching staff. I really think Derek Carr's a really nice, great person. These are nice people. Doesn't mean you can't criticize them. And you can't criticize the last regime and the regime before, Mayock and the draft picks and the Gruden picks. And where are they now? The Raiders organization have made very bad football decisions. They've made very bad football decisions for years. With that being said, they have assembled a team together right now that should, and I say should, it's never easy winning in the NFL, but they've assembled a team together that should win. I don't like Derek Carr as a football player. I like him as a person. He's an average quarterback at best. Explain to me what? He doesn't have the protection? Listen, let me tell you something. I was at that Saints game. I watched every play. Yes, there were a few plays where, the line broke down and Carr was sacked and he didn't have time to throw the ball. Yes, there were a few plays that is absolutely true. I can tell you that he missed guys flat out. Carr is missing guys flat out. The accuracy is not there. He was abysmal. I can tell you more times than not in the plays last weekend, he had more than enough time to throw the ball. He was unable to run for first down yardage. He was unable to scrap to at least get a 2 or 3 yard gain. I don't think that's asking too much. And when he had guys open, he either didn't throw it to them or he overthrew them or underthrew him. That is what Derek Carr has been this year. He had a few good games, but for the most part, Derek Carr has been bad. And he is getting paid way too much money to be bad or even to be average. We need a good Derek Carr. When Derek Carr is on and he's throwing the ball where it needs to be thrown, he's a very good quarterback. But the problem with Derek Carr is he is extremely inconsistent. That is the problem with Derek Carr. Extremely inconsistent. And that's an issue. And the Raiders are going to have to make a decision. Why wait now? Why wait? A lot of people like to, the Raiders are going to have to wait till the end of the year. And then if they see something that happens, okay, why wait? Make a decision now. And I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is going to be our quarterback tomorrow, but there are not many people out there, but there are people like Aaron Rodgers where you could come to some sort of agreement and deal. I know people that know Aaron Rodgers personally. I've had those conversations with him over the last week. I don't make this stuff up. Aaron Rodgers likes Las Vegas a lot. I can tell you right now, if the right opportunity presented itself, he would get the hell out of Green Bay tomorrow. He's not having fun playing football right now. There are too many guys on his team that are young, they're banged up, they're young, they're inexperienced. That is not the personality of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career does not want to play with a bunch of first and second year and third year guys. He wants to play with veterans. He wants to play with people like Davante Adams. He wants to play with guys that have made it in this league. Now, I understand there's not a lot of guys like Davante Adams out there, but that's Aaron Rodgers' personality. He wants to play with veterans because he is a veteran and he is a Hall of Famer. If Aaron Rodgers became the next quarterback here in Las Vegas, immediately I put the Raiders as a Super Bowl contender. Immediately. I really do. Now, they have a lot of issues. It's not just Derek Carr, right? The defense has looked bad. But why is they've been on the field too long? That's a big part of it. They've been on the field too long. I believe Derek Carr is a big part of why the Raiders have not had success. I also believe Derek Carr was a big part of why the Raiders were able to make it to the playoffs last year. He was very good down the stretch. The problem with Derek Carr is he's very inconsistent. And I understand there's not a lot of quarterbacks out there like Aaron Rodgers. I get it. Look at what's going on in Miami right now. Look at how consistent they are. I look at teams across the league and I see teams that are very consistent. I say it starts with their quarterback. Consistency. I never know what type of Derek Carr we're going to see on the football field. He hasn't been good as of late. I know that. I know they beat Houston in their last home game, but how bad was that first half? When was the last game where you could say that Derek Carr had an incredible 60 minutes of football? He's had a few this year. He's had maybe one game where you could point to one game and say, all right, Derek Carr was fantastic in that game. He's had one.
Week 1?
Maybe. No, week 1 he wasn't very good.
Week 2.
Week 2.
Week 2.
You're talking about week 2.
Yeah.
He had a very good week 2. They had a very disappointing week 1. Week 2, he was very good. Now, why was he very good? Besides being accurate with the footballs, he was running for first down yardage. Right? He had rushing yards. You need your quarterback to be able to run for yards. It's why I love Josh Allen. And I understand they are two completely different quarterbacks. But everyone is saying that Buffalo, they're going to win the Super Bowl. I have questions with Buffalo because when they throw the ball, they are the best team in the league offensively, but their run game is not very good. So I have questions with the Buffalo Bills. I don't think they're the best team in the league. They're one of the best teams. I wouldn't put them as the best team in the league, but the Buffalo Bills are light years ahead of where the Raiders are at right now. It starts with the coaching staff. And I know Josh McDaniels is honest, and he says it. I give him credit. He gets there in front of the podium. He says, I got to own this. I got to do better. I appreciate him for being honest. This isn't personal. There have been coaches in this town that I did not like personally, right? Marvin Menzies. Don't like him as a human being. Didn't like him personally. Thought he was kind of a jerk. I didn't like TJ Otzelberger. Jerk. Not good with his players. Not a very personable guy. I didn't like those two guys, right? I'm glad they're gone. I didn't like them as head coaches, and I didn't like them as people. I like these Raiders players as people, and I like these coaches as people. Like, it's not a personal thing. I like Mark Davis. I think he's a great guy. I really like him as a person. I just think they've made a lot of bad football decisions. That's what I'm trying to say. Bad football decisions. It's not personal, right? I mean, why? Why would I be personal? I get personal with Henry Ruggs. He's a scumbag. I wish he spent 30 years in jail, but he killed somebody. That's a totally different circumstance, right? But Mark Davis and what these Raiders players do for charity work and for this community, it's the wonderful stuff that they do, right? Darren Waller's a perfect example of that. What a great Raider, right? Having a bad year, I know he's been banged up, does so many great things for charity work. Same thing with Derek Carr. There are a lot of really great people on this football team, and they're an easy team to root for, and I want them to win. I just don't think they've made the right decisions. The decision-making has been bad, starting with Mayock years back. Draft picks, Gruden. They made some bad decisions then. And what I hate about this more than anything is the accomplishment that they had last year in making the playoffs. Let's get rid of this coaching staff. Let's bring in Josh McDaniels. Really, what has Josh done in his head coaching career? I just don't understand. I said it 4 years ago. I said it when the Raiders made the announcement that they were coming here, that I did not believe that Derek Carr was the right guy for this job. It's not the right team for him. Derek Carr, in a perfect position, would be playing on a team like the Green Bay Packers. That's his personality. Veteran quarterback, get your young guys better, develop your talent. That would be a perfect spot for Derek Carr. I know the Packers are not happy and they want more now, but they don't have the personnel. I'm telling you, man, that's the perfect swap. Now, obviously, the Green Bay Packers are not going to say, sure, we'll give you Aaron Rodgers. Let's take Derek Carr. That's not what I'm saying. They're not stupid, okay? It would cost them a lot more than that. But I believe that's doable, and I think it could happen. The problem is Derek Carr's contract is way too much. That's the problem. They're paying him way too much money. Again, it goes to bad decision-making. You're paying Derek Carr too much money. This is a guy that's never won a playoff game before. John Gruden is a guy that won half his games in the NFL, and you decided to give him a $100 million contract. That was a mistake. I'm not talking about any of the stuff that Gruden said in emails. I'm just talking about purely from a football perspective. He was not a good enough coach to give him a $100 million contract. That was a mistake. You had a capable coaching staff at the end of the year last year that proved it. Proved it. They got you to the playoffs. And what did you say? Nope, we're going to go a different direction. All right. So I'm going to listen to what our general manager says. Well, I shouldn't say our. He's not my general manager, but the Raiders general manager. All right. I'm going to listen to what you have to say. You got a system in place. You're moving forward, going to get better. All right. I'm going to take you for your word. I don't know what that plan is. What is that plan? Because I'm going to tell you right now, the end of the year doesn't go very well, and I don't think it will. And if Josh McDaniels doesn't make the playoffs this year, which he won't, and he doesn't make the playoffs next year, you have to find a different coach. You have to. I don't think Derek Carr should be our starting quarterback next year. You need to wheel and deal. You need to come to the realization, take the ego out of it and say, this is not the right guy that is going to get us to the playoffs every year. This is certainly not the guy that's going to get us to a Super Bowl. I really, truly believe that. Derek Carr is not that guy. I like Derek Carr as a person. He's not a bad quarterback. He's not horrible, even though he was horrible last week. He's not horrible. But do you really want an average quarterback? Because that's what Derek Carr is. Like it or not, Derek Carr is an average quarterback in the NFL. He has flashes of brilliance, and he has games where he is well above average. He has games where he looks like a Super Bowl quarterback, but I'm talking about the totality of his career. He is not an above-average quarterback. He is an average quarterback in the National Football League, and he has proved that with what he has done in his career. You can't have a game like he had last week. Not in a must-win game where you're trying to make the playoffs and your back's against the wall. You can't. Derek Carr is not the guy that Raider Nation thinks he is. He is not. He's a good guy. He cares about Raider Nation. He wants to win. It's not because of his work ethic. He's got fine work ethic. It's not because he doesn't want to win. It's not because he doesn't have passion. Clearly he does. He doesn't have the tools to be an elite quarterback in the NFL. And to get to Super Bowls and to be consistent and make the playoffs every year, you have to have a quarterback that is capable of doing that. I just don't think Derek Carr is that guy. Simply put, I hope I'm wrong. I root for Derek Carr. I root for the Raiders. I want them to succeed. I want them to win. I have no idea what's going to happen this weekend. Would I be surprised if the Raiders won by double digits? No. Would I be surprised if they lost by double digits? No. I wouldn't. And that's why I'm not going to come on the air and give you garbage or say things that some other shows say and put the nonsense out there and think Derek Carr, what type of Raider team we're going to see. I have no idea. I know that Derek Carr is not 100%. He's got a bad back. He didn't practice. I know that there are guys out there that are probably still hurt. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Again, a reminder, tomorrow on the program, going to have some fun. We got Return of the Mac. That's right. Mac Miller is going to be joining us in studio along with Tim Treffinger, who's running for district attorney against Steve Wolfson. He'll be joining us in studio. The great JJ Snyder is going to be joining us from Morning Blend. She's going to be giving us all the doings of what's going on this weekend in Las Vegas. So I'm really certainly looking forward to that. My thanks to John Wayne Bobbitt and his painful story. Thanks to him. And of course, I also want to thank good journalist Collin Anderson from the Washington Free Beacon. That was a really fun interview I did with him as well. All right, folks, that's a wrap. We'll see you tomorrow, same place. Have a great day.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can